My name's Jo. I'm married to Darren. We've got two daughters, Abby and Lola, now aged 14 and 9. I'm a nanny by background. Currently not working as a nanny at the moment, juggling many other things. I'm working in the local high school. And my husband is the stroke survivor, who's currently in neuro rehab. It was just over 2 years ago, September 2021. That Darren had worked a day in his normal job as a police officer. Come home from school, picked our youngest daughter up, she was 7 at the time, and he'd come home. I was at work in my nanny job, and our eldest daughter came home from school, and she contacted me. She was just a couple of weeks before she was 12, and she contacted me and asked what was wrong with Daddy's mouth. And I said, I don't know, I'm at work, and said, is everything okay? And she messaged back and said, he's talking funny and it's scaring me. So I was kind of 3 weeks into a new job. I had 2 parents working at home, 3 children, in the middle of cooking a dinner. And I quickly screenshot her message, sent it to him, and then started to pick up a phone to call him. I said, kind of, what's going on? And he answered the phone, and straight away I knew something wasn't right. His speech was slurred. And he just said he was tired now, and he said he'd bitten his tongue. Now, whether he knew how serious it was, whether he was downplaying it or he was confused, I didn't know at that point. But I just said, well, you don't sound right, you don't sound like that normally when you're tired. So I got my neighbour, who was next door, to go and physically check on him, and she checked on him and noticed that he had a droop mouth, droop, and she said she was advising she was getting the ambulance. So that kind of all happened very quickly, but unfortunately there was a delay with the ambulance service getting to him. So my father-in-law got to him within 10 minutes. I got home around 35 minutes after that, and we still waited. There was over 2 hours wait for the ambulance, unfortunately. Took him away, and we couldn't go with him because of COVID restrictions still in place. That was very difficult, just waiting at home. 4 hours later, he'd been assessed and said that he'd had a large right-sided bleed on his brain, obviously a type of hemorrhagic stroke, and that they were going to take him to surgery, and basically very bluntly said that he may not survive. It's very, very difficult to hear. Very difficult to then have to broach that with our children because they were still up and awake at this point. Been in touch with his police service, and they sent a car and they blue lighted us to the hospital and got in touch with the staff there, obviously, because they're in and out of the hospital in the job that they do. And we waited in the waiting area of the theatre really until he come out for surgery. We spent a number of weeks in ICU. A number of complications, getting off the sedation initially, very bleak, the doctors, but very kind of want to give hope, but also very black and white, which is better than having false hope, I guess, in that, they might not be able to wake him up at worst, and at best, if they do wake him up, he'll have severe disability. He had sepsis whilst he was in ICU, and chest infection, a number of other things. From there he went onto a ward, then he went to another hospital for intermediate neuro rehabilitation in Manchester, and then he decided that he was still progressing through his goals, but then needed some further kind of rehabilitation because he'd not met his goals, but he wasn't ready to come home either. Darren's got left-sided paralysis and cognitive defects, disabilities from obviously the bleed. He's been at the facility he's at now since February 2022, where he's remaining whilst we're getting the house adapted, and he continues his rehabilitation there. He's at Oakvale Gardens in Liverpool. So he was first at Salford Royal Hospital. Luckily, we live in Wigan in the Greater Manchester area, and thankfully, when the ambulance did come, they obviously recognised the signs, and they took him to the right hospital, not just our nearest, you know, within A&E. The ambulance dispatch did say, you know, could you take him to hospital yourself? There was no way. I mean, my husband's a big fella. There was no way me and my father-in-law could have got him safely there. It was 5 o'clock. It was rush hour. And equally, we wouldn't have thought to drive across to Manchester. We'd have just taken him to the nearest hospital, which wouldn't have been the right place. So he went to the right place and had the neurosurgery there at Salford. Then he went to Trafford General Hospital, where there was the neuro rehab. But because where Darren's GP falls under Merseyside, that's where he's ended up in a Liverpool setting. Obviously, when Darren first went to them, we're a long way from where he was when he was admitted, basically. I've just actually been going through his report from a few months ago because it's his review tomorrow, and just to obviously reviewed at regular stages. But to put into context, when he arrived last February, he was still being hoist transferred in a sling. He couldn't tolerate sitting out in a wheelchair all that long. He was in a different wheelchair that he's in now. It was quite supportive, and I had all the head support, and it was a tilt. And yeah, a lot of things have changed since then. It's kind of, you don't realise it's, you know, they call it slow stream rehab, but it's all these little steps that build up into the bigger picture. So looking back to where he was to where he's at now, physically and kind of the occupational therapy and the physiotherapy, the neuropsychology, the nurses, he's taken up music therapy, pet therapy. It's kind of that whole bundle has just been amazing in just making all those little steps build the bigger picture. He's doing transfers now from his wheelchair to the bed. He's working on more functional goals of transferring to toilets, so if we're out in the community, we can do things more functionally, because you can't transfer out of his wheelchair without equipment or without staff, which a lot of people don't realise when you're out. They just think you can go out and about as normal, but it's you know, it's an obstacle really when you can't go on to toilets out in the community. But yeah, there's been a lot of changes. And I think off the top of my head of other things, but yeah, it's a really good setting. Darren settled well. It's a nice unit. There's 2 units with different levels of residents there, I guess, and service users with different needs. Yeah, Darren has got his speech and language. He has had some speech and language therapy, but that's not one of his bigger areas of affected from his stroke, really. But yeah, he's doing really well. It's hard being apart as a family, but yeah, the therapy side of things is good. It's hard to envisage what the future is going to be like, because there's a lot of unknown, and I've been used to living kind of a day at a time, a week at a time, a couple of weeks at a time, and then back to a week at a time, and then something will throw in the mix. But yeah, it's trying to not take for granted, and we're trying to live very much. It's made us live more in the present, be more mindful, and you don't take things for granted when you've nearly lost somebody very close, because he was you know, very, very nearly fatal stroke. So we know we're very thankful that he's survived, and he's working hard. He's got a very, very good outlook and very positive mindset, which I think is amazing. And the staff there are brilliant with you know, encouraging that and involving us as a family as well. I'm able to go along to sessions, and the children have been able to come to sessions to watch as time's gone on, which is really helpful, because just visiting is lovely, but when you just see him in his chair. But when you're invited to physiotherapy or to occupational therapy to watch him prepare a meal, or to watch him, you know, do, you know, some of the tasks he's been doing in physio, it's really helpful and helps us to see what he is actually working towards, and like you say, it gives hope for the future when he returns home. Supported brilliantly. They do family support sessions over, well, it's been over Zoom, and then they've changed the platforms that they're using. But yeah, they've had different sessions, either with the neuropsychologists running and hosting it. they've had different speakers in, and it's really helpful actually to have other family members of other residents there, and we can kind of, you know, speak about our experiences in different ways, and yeah, learn kind of how things are, and it, you know, it helps you understand a little bit, you know, about other people as well. But yeah, the support from the staff has been really good. And yeah, just little things that were included with, like we had a Macmillan coffee morning and we're invited to go to that. Obviously it's supporting another charity, but we're, you know, included in, and they've had their own celebration parties. I had one in the summer. My husband actually was invited to do a little speech, so it was nice that, you know, the nursing staff there trusted him. He didn't write it down or anything. I was like, oh my goodness, he's just giving him a microphone. But yeah, it's really nice to be there. You know, his parents were there and our children were there, and it was a lovely hot sunny day, and all the family, but you know, of residents was there together. So yeah, it's nice to be included, because it's hard, especially right at the beginning. Obviously there's a lot of COVID restrictions, which is out of people's hands, frustrating for everybody, and when areas go into tighter lockdowns, we had limited visits and access and things, but that's gradually eased away again. 12 months ago, I couldn't imagine where I am now. Obviously 2 years ago, certainly couldn't imagine we'd be at this point now. But I know there's support in place. I've been signposted to lots of different, you know, obviously the Brain Charity in Liverpool, there's Headway, I know there's the Stroke Association, and Different Strokes. There's all these charities that, you know, we've been signposted to for support, and obviously all the staff within the unit as well. So yeah, it's daunting, because we don't know what the future is going to be like, don't know exactly what Darren's needs are going to be like once he is home. But I know that we've been supported up until now, so hopefully that will continue, and once he gets to discharge, I know there'll be plans in place as well for that.